Hey guys, all we're going to do today is I'm going to do a quick run through of playing the Zoom tables on very low stakes on Pokerstars to give you guys just a little bit of an idea of what it's like playing at these levels. All it really is there to do is it's going to be there to just give you a rough basis on the kind of play you want to be doing, the kind of players you'll come up against, and the kind of strategies that I would employ in order to win effectively at these levels. Now, because you're dealing with such micro stakes, you're never going to be making a huge amount of money. I only really do it for a bit of fun, give myself a bit of a break from work while I'm at university, although I did used to play a couple of years ago, and I'd like to consider myself relatively well versed in how to play, although I do still make a fair amount of mistakes. Now, one of the things I think one of the major mistakes people make in Zoom tables is the over-evaluation of hands, and the problem with this is a lot of people will tend to fold the bad hands and wait for the good hands. But when people do hit those aces, kings, queens, ace king, ace queen, they kind of find it really hard to let them go. I seem to be making a lot of my money on the pot space where I flop a set against top pair, top kicker, or I have some kind of guy who's chasing a flush draw when he shouldn't be. And these guys tend to give you the bulk of your money. So it's quite interesting to see that. The level of play is pretty horrendously poor at this level, and as long as you play ABC poker, you should be fine. Now, at the moment, you've just seen me just fold a large amount of hands. I usually tend to not enter a pot unless I've either got position or I've got myself a strong hand. I like to be able to think that I can outplay a lot of my opponents, so I can open my hand range up and play a large range of hands that the average person wouldn't play. But when it comes down to it, it is just playing, ABC poker. Playing very straightforward. Now here I pick up pocket tens and we've got one limper here, so I'll raise it 3 times the big blind and then add another big blind for every limper in the hand, and we'll see how the hand plays out. Here I pick up a7 suited connectors on the cutoff position, and I'm going to call this raise because I'll have position post flop. Now here we have 3 low cards, and the possibility of flush and straight draws are there, and this guy goes ahead and bets 20 cents. So because we got position, we're just going to call see the turn card and decide what one we do afterwards. Now that big bet of 48 cents doesn't necessarily mean that he's on a 7. It's possible he could have a higher pocket pair, so we're just going to call and see what he does on the turn. Over here we pick up a flush draw and the guy hasn't done anything, so we call, and this hand's gone quite quickly. But going back to this hand here, he's gone all in. He's played very aggressive from the beginning, so it's likely for him to have some kind of hand that beats me. But when it comes down to it, the only hands that are going to beat me here are going to be jacks, queens, kings, aces, and a 7. And because all the draws missed, we're going to go ahead and call. And he's got pocket 8s there, and we do a nice little double up very early on. So there you see, when you kind of talk yourself through the situation, it becomes fairly evident that these guys are very inexperienced. He just put in a huge bet on the river because there were 3 7s, and he just assumed that the possibility of me having a 7 was very low. Now here on the left we've got pocket jacks on the button. I raised it slightly higher than normal because I decided I wanted to. Now here we've got a king that's popped up. We've had 2 callers, but those 2 checks mean I'm going to go ahead and make a continuation bet. Like I said, I've got position, and the 1 card doesn't particularly scare me. Now the turn brings the flush. He check called the flop, so I can't beat a king or a 7 at the moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and check. A little worried about that call he made on the flop. And now with that check on the turn, I'm still relatively certain that there are a lot of hands that can beat me, so I'm not going to make a value bet here, and I take it down. So there you see 2 relatively straightforward hands, which were pretty straightforward to play when you think about it logically, and you kind of give yourself a little bit of time to make your decision. It can make all the difference, because I think a lot of people make their moves too fast. They don't think about it logically before making the play. So here I pick up pocket 6s. I'm getting a check because there are 4 people in the pot and I'm out of position, and I'm just going to do normal 3 times the big blind raise with ace jack on the other table. Now obviously I'm playing 2 Zoom tables, so I'll try and keep up, but it can get a bit hectic at times. I'm trying to describe both tables. But like I said, I used to be a consistently winning player. I did have another set of videos up, but unfortunately I lost a lot of them, so I just wanted to do a little walkthrough, even though it is very low stakes, just to give people a rough idea of what it's like playing on Zoom tables. Now here we pick up 2 pair, but there are a lot of draws and he's come out and bet, so I'm going to test him. I'm going to raise up to 20 cents so I can get a little bit of a rough idea of what this guy's got. Now he folds there, and like I said, it's kind of, you know, what we wanted to see, because as great as the 2 pair was, there were a lot of straight and flush draw possibilities, and most players, if they have those draws, are going to call there and keep drawing, so we want them to pay. And I said, I think one of the other things about when you're playing Zoom tables is people tend to overvaluate their hands, like I said, obviously, and that doesn't just go for top pair, top kicker. I mean, when you have that 2 pair, you know, it's a good hand, but it's still very vulnerable to a lot of things, and because these players are willing to call with such a large range of hands, you know, I think it's mandatory to make that raise there, especially in position. Now here I pick up 2nd pair, although this guy did small raise me, but I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption that it's very likely he can be sitting on ace king, ace queen, ace jack, and you know, it's a relatively safe flop for those hands, but when he raises here, I'm pretty sure I'm beat, so I just go ahead and let the hand go. So you can see that when you're playing 2 Zoom tables, the action's relatively fast. You know, I'm picking up playable hands left, right and centre. Sometimes you can go through, you know, dry spells, but like I said, trying to describe what's going on both tables at the same time is relatively hard when you've got just 2 Zoom tables up at the moment. Now here I've got 9, 10 suited on the button, and you know, these kind of hands are great to play in position. You know, huge big flops can come up. You know, you can win big with them, and the same here. I've got ace 3, and if we get folds all the way around to the button, then I'm going to go ahead and make a raise here. Now the flop comes nothing, and he bets all in, so we're just going to let that go. Now remember, especially in Zoom tables, position is everything. I mean, in poker, position's everything, but especially in Zoom tables when you're playing, you know, such a large amount of hands. You know, position is going to be so important, because these players are bad, and you know, if you're out of position, you're not really sure what they're doing. Now here he's overbet the pot with a king, queen, and the 3. Now because I've got that pair, I'm going to go ahead and call. Again, I can see the turn, and here it comes another 3, so now I can be relatively safe that my trips are good, and I've got obviously a redraw to what could possibly be the nuts here. Now he goes ahead and he bets 10, so now we're going to put in a small raise here, and hopefully he'll bite, because we might have you know, the turn might have changed things, but there we go, and we take the pot. Now here we have aces, so just a normal 3 times the big blind raise. We get a call. We get a very dodgy flop, but you know, got to go ahead and bet half the pot here, and we get min raise. Now this is one of those positions we need to be really careful, because obviously there are loads of hands that can now beat my aces. So I'm going to play small pot poker. I'm out of position against him, and I'm just going to kind of see what he does on the turn. See that big bet? It signifies that my aces are probably beat, and I'm just going to go ahead and let them go. Now I said there, you know, you make the small raise with the aces, and that kind of flop comes up. I mean, the amount, his hand ranges are huge there. He could have flopped the straight. He could be sitting on any kind of 2 pair. And so especially when you get raised on the flop and then you check and he bets a huge amount on the turn, you can be pretty certain that not all the time, but a lot of the time he's going to have aces beat there. So here we pick up ace king. Now we get raised. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to make it about 4 times the raise, because I'm going to be out of position if this goes to the flop. Now we'll see what he does. See, he folds. And the thing with ace king when you're in the smaller big blind is you don't want people coming into the hand with anything weak. If you want to be playing out of position, you want to make sure that you're making that person pay to play. Now if he goes ahead and does this big re-raise on me, I'm going to know that my ace king is not any good. If he just calls, then if an ace or a king comes, a lot of the time I can be relatively certain that I've got the hand locked down, because the best he's going to have is a split pot with me. So that's why we raised there, and if it had gone to the flop and I'd completely missed, obviously depending on the situation, I'd probably just let it go if he bet. But yeah, so I used to play a lot of poker when I was a kid. Currently at university, and like I said earlier, I just play for a bit of fun nowadays, you know. And I think by video logging how I'm playing, it kind of keeps me truthful to myself. You know, I can kind of justify the moves I'm making, and even if I make a terrible mistake, I can then see it on video for next time. So here we have ace queen. We've had this min raise from here, and you know, I feel like I'm going to play small ball poker on this one. I just feel like it. Completely missed the flop, and I'm probably going to check fold. the ace pops up, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a big bet here, hoping that maybe he's sitting there with an ace as well. Now with that queen, the only hands, you know, I only have a few hands I need to be scared of, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to value bet 14, and hopefully we'll get a call. But here we get this raise. It becomes a bit of a tough decision what you want to do, because you know the raise on that river, like a very small amount of time is going to be, it's a value raise. You know, he's raising because he wants the value. That's not a bluff. So I have to decide whether or not my hand's going to be a lot of the hands that he would be raised with. Now, just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to call, but I'm assuming here that he's either got a straight, or the best he can have is some kind of weird two pair. But I'm going to go ahead and say he got lucky, and on the turn he hit a straight. So there you go. He hit the straight on the, what was it? Oh god, I don't even know. 6, 10. So he hit it on the river. So he hit on the river, and he did a very small value raise, which is kind of what I expected to see there. And I said, for the sake of the video, I called because I wanted to show you guys that I was relatively right. And if there are those of you who want to comment down below and say I'm a complete freaking idiot and it's just a way for me just to justify my donk call, then go ahead. I don't mind criticism. And I'll only play a couple more hands, I think, because I've got a lecture in a minute. You know, here, completely miss everything. There's no point even playing the hand four-way. So just going to let it go. Here I pick up pockets aces again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm raising it slightly more. Like I said, the luxury with Zoom tables is people don't usually know your play, so by raising it to 8, it doesn't make it suspicious because I've always been raising to 6 every time. But what it does allow me to do is it allows that if someone has a hand worth re-raising with, they can kind of do a big re-raise, and I can find out exactly how strong my hand is. And the other thing about it is it stops those really weak hands from coming in, like those kind of 5, 6 suiteds, those kind of hands. It kind of prevents them from coming in because it's just slightly too much money for these kind of players for their stack sizes. Okay, we'll play 2 more hands. Okay, so here we have 2 good hands to end off with. So pick up ace queen on the button. Now this guy's raised to 4. Now because he's got those 2 stars there and he's got $10, I can pretty much make the assumption that he's actually a relatively smart player. So I can make the assumption that if I raise, he's only ever going to call with a good hand, especially being out of position. So here I have 8s out of position, and an ace king comes down, which is unfortunate. And he checks to the turn, but like again, we said we're just going to play very small poker V bets. We're just going to let it go. Now, interestingly, over here an ace flops, and he goes ahead and he bets 12. Now that's definitely a kind of feeler bet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to call and see what he does on the turn. I think he's trying to feel out the situation, find out exactly where he's sitting. Now that 9 comes up, it doesn't necessarily change too much. It's possible with that small raise he could be sitting on some kind of 2 pair, possibly even a set. But what we're going to do is we're going to check here and try and trap him, because I'm pretty sure that the ace queen has him beat a large amount of the time. Now Jack comes on the river and he goes ahead and makes 14 cents. So we're going to go ahead and call, and he had pocket 10s. So we were pretty lucky there. We kind of got the maximum amount of money out of him. Because obviously if we raise the turn, he's always folding, and if we bet the turn, sorry, he's folding. So on the river, he was technically doing some kind of, I think, bluff there. I don't think he thought his 10s were good. So you know, pretty happy with that. Now just for a last hand, I'm just gonna, because it's the last hand, I'm just gonna call with 6-4 suited. Hopefully see a cheap flop, and if we flop anything good, we can play, but we don't. So I'm just gonna go ahead and back out. So that was just a really quick look at playing the very low Zoom tables, just kind of my thought process on a few hands, and I'm hoping in the future to kind of expand on that. And like I said, even though it's incredibly low stakes where you're never going to make any real amount of money, it's for fun, and if you guys enjoyed watching the videos, then hey, that's good. That's real good. That's all I'm here for. Alright, bye bye.